From the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
All right, this is going to be a fun segment. We have been looking forward to this segment ever since we found out that Brian Pope was coming back in. Brian's been with us before, and he knows bats. It's the time of year. I guess we talk about bats because of the association with the Halloween decorations, and et cetera, but obviously bats live among us all the time. I remember when we were in the Cascades, Robin, we had some bats up in the attic part of the building. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, I do. They were right there.
You can see them at night. Yeah. Brian is the director of the Lubee Bat Conservancy. He worked at the Pittsburgh Zoo, Lubee Bat Conservancy, as an animal programs keeper. And I'm reading here, right? And Disney's Animal Kingdom, really. And an advocate for bat conservation. He was just telling us about some bats that maybe are endangered. So we have an opportunity to go to the 14th annual Florida Bat Festival, which is on the 20th. That'd be a week from tomorrow?
A week from tomorrow, correct.
A week from tomorrow at the Lubee Bat Conservancy up in Gainesville. So let's find out about this. Brian Pope, good morning again. Thank you for coming in. Good to see you.
Good morning to you guys, and thanks again for the opportunity. This is big for us to be able to talk not only about bats in Lubee, but our upcoming Bat Festival, which is Saturday, October 20th, a week from tomorrow.
Now, what do we see when we go to a bat festival?
Well, the main thing you're going to see is the draw are the bats themselves. And we have 13 species, about 200 individuals, and that's really what people come to see are the bats. And so I figured since I was going to be on the air today, I might as well bring some pictures because last time I was here, it was just my face. So why don't we show
You thought radio, you didn't think we had a camera, but we do. And so
yes. So I found that out, but I figured why not bring some pictures of bats so people can see what, the type of bats we have, because, here in North and Central Florida, we have about, I do a lot of acoustic work and echolocation. We have about 6 species of bats that I usually find whenever we're doing this kind of work. And one of those, so Lubee has a lot of different types of bats, but one of the type of bats we have here in Ocala and Gainesville is called an evening bat. And we actually have this individual at Lubee.
You hold up to the camera here.
So her name is Chickpea. I'm hoping you guys can see that.
Nice.
So we have that particular bat at Lubee. So they're native to Florida. They're quite common. You'll see them in bat houses. They like to roost in some tree hollows and areas like that. But with that individual actually had to have her wing amputated because of an injury.
Oh, really?
But we got her from West End Animal Hospital, who, by the way, is a Bat Fest supporter. But that is one of the native species of bats that we have at Lubee.
Nice.
But some of the other cute ones, which I wanted to bring by to show you pictures of, and keep in mind that they're going to be upside down because bats hang upside down.
That's actually right set up, though, right? The picture's right set up.
Not this. So
Robin's going to hold it.
So that is called a little golden-mantled flying fox. And the native bats that we have at Lubee, like Chickpea, who you just saw, they eat insects, but the majority of the bats that we have at Lubee are fruit bats. And whenever people come to Lubee, the main draw is really seeing the bats. And not only are they going to see the bats, but the bats themselves are involved in a lot of activities. They're active during the day. And in the wild, where these type of bats are from, these fruit bats, which are that particular species you're looking at, is from the Philippines. But most of our bats we have are from Southeast Asia and Africa. They're active in the mornings and in the evenings. That's called crepuscular. Well, they're not really active at night. They're not chasing around insects, the fruit bats we have at Lubee. So their food's not really going anywhere. But at Lubee, they're kind of used to our schedule, and they're active during the day. So the folks are going to be able to see them not only being active, but playing with each other, interacting with each other, and they may even paint. So we have. I wanted to bring a painting that some of our bats did, and actually, my wife, who's the programs coordinator there, and the keepers themselves, they make sure there's always writing on the back about what the bats did. So this was actually done.
Oh my gosh!
I just brought a ton of props.
A bat did that painting?
Yeah. So actually, these guys did. I didn't even realize it. Whenever I was walking up, I noticed the note in the back. So these are our twins, Frick and Frack. They were born last year. Absolutely adorable. So those are called variable flying fox.
They are adorable.
They're from Southeast Asia.
Why? Can I ask a question? Why do we have such a scary thing associated with bats when they're so cute? Can you pet them like a dog?
They don't really like to be touched too much. But what I like about them is I've worked a lot of different types of animals, everything from giraffes and all the way down to tarantulas. And for whatever reason, bats have been my career for 22 years. But one of the things I really like working with them is, one, there's an opportunity to teach people about them because there is a lot of myths associated with them. But the fact that they're very gentle, and that's one of the things we like to talk to folks about. They don't really like being touched whenever we go in there, just like any animal really doesn't. But I like that we can go in there with them. Now, this is the staff, the folks that are during the festival won't be able to go into them.
They know you. Do they know you like a pet would know you?
Yeah, they recognize us. And what I like is you can go in there with them. And if there's anything wrong with them, you'll be able to see it, as opposed to if you're working with a herd of antelope and they're running 20, 30 yards from you. They'll hide their injuries. But these guys, we can walk in with them. They're very friendly. They do recognize folks, and you'd mentioned about the myths associated with them. They come out at night. They're kind of flying around. They're getting, the insect-eating bats are going to be flying around you to get insects. But that's the main thing, and it depends on a lot of culture. A lot of different cultures view bats differently.
Really?
In some Asian cultures, they revere them as good fortune, good luck, long, healthy life. In Spanish culture, which is actually where Bacardi got the bat on the bottle, it came from, back in the 1800s, the bats were associated with good luck, so they wanted to put that bat on the bottle to remind folks that, hey, this is obviously by our product, but if this animal is good luck. So I think it just depends on the different cultures. In European culture for years, especially kind of Central and Western Europe, they had this negative view of bats. But that's why Lubee's around, is to tell folks about how important these animals really are, which is one of the main things we want to do at Bat Fest. But we have a bunch of other things going on.
How come the one bat has his skin wrapped around him and the other one just has fur?
So what he's actually doing is he's got his fingers wrapped around him, and actually this is a good shot of, this is what a bat's wing is. So all their wing really is just a large hand with skin in between. So what that bat was doing, the two twins here, they had their wrists up by their head, but that bat that you guys are seeing right now gives you a really good shot of what a bat's wing is made of, because it's hard to really think, okay, what is it? Well, all their wing is just a large arm. So the upper arm is in proportion to the rest of the body. So it's what you would picture with a human or a primate, but their forearm is huge, their fingers are huge, and then they got a sheet of skin that goes in between every finger, and then from the pinky all the way down to the ankle, and that's what enables them to fly, and they are the only mammals that can fly.
If the skin that makes up the fabric of the wing, for lack of a better way, if it tears, does it heal, or are they done for?
No, and that's one of the things that's fascinating about bats is they have very effective immune systems. So not only can they regenerate any tears or holes in their wings, and they could do it relatively quickly, because if they couldn't, they wouldn't be able to fly. But there's something in their bodies that enables them to have such powerful, effective immune systems. Now, we have projects that we do with everybody from Duke University, Boston University, to the U.S. Army and the CDC, where in these type of bats, so I'm going to be talking just briefly about the bats from Asia and Africa, the fruit bats and flying foxes. So if you think about certain diseases out there, like Ebola in Africa, okay, there's a lot of misconceptions that bats have diseases. They don't. They can get diseases just like any mammal can, and something like rabies is fatal to a bat, but they don't just have it. If they get it, then it is fatal to them. But if you look at a virus like Ebola, and this is one of the world's deadliest diseases, fruit bats in Africa, if they were to acquire this disease, because they don't just have it, there's something in their immune systems that eradicates this virus. They have the antibodies for it, and then they're free. So what we do at Lubee is we have a research program that if we have a particular bat that's anesthetized, we just for his annual physical, we might draw a little bit of blood from that bat, and then we'll wake him up and put he or she back with their group. We take that blood and send it off to these different labs, again with the CDC, NIH, or U.S. Army, and they look at their immune system. They look at their blood and their immune systems, and they inject their blood that we send off with Ebola, with viruses, Marburg in Africa, Nipah in Southeast Asia, to try to find out what is in their bodies that they can eradicate the world's deadliest viruses.
And does that become applicable to humans?
That's the point. So, you know, Lubee is we're a conservation education organization, but we're also involved in research, and that is our little part to hopefully trying to find cures to these diseases, which are fatal to humans, primates, and a lot of other species.
So will we see, first of all, what is Lubee? Is that a person's name?
It was a nickname for our founder. Everybody called him Lubee, so it's just, that's where we get the name Lubee from. It's just his nickname.
And it's always open, not just next week, right? It's always, we can always take a tour.
No, we're closed to the public.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But so we're open. We have an open house event in May, but then this is our big day of the year. But we schedule tours all the time. We just had actually Lawton Childs Elementary up in Gainesville is there right now. They were there yesterday, and we schedule private tours all the time. We have scouting groups, religious groups, other organizations we work with, Boys and Girls Club, Big Brothers Big Sisters, and public-private homeschool groups. So we give tours to everybody, but they just have to be scheduled beforehand.
You mentioned before the name Flying Fox. So in my mind, immediately I pictured a bigger bat than maybe a smaller bat. I don't know, a bigger bat. Am I picturing it right? Then does the name give me a good description of what the bat looks like?
Yeah. So there are currently about 1,380 species of bats. Which, whenever I first started working with them 22 years ago, there was only 900 species. So they found 400 species in 2 decades.
Wow.
But you can kind of split them up into about 1,200 of the are called microbats, like we have here in Florida. They're found all over the place. And then you have your megabats, which are old world fruit bats for the most part. Now the flying foxes are about 67 of those bats, and those are the giants. So the picture that we showed with this guy, now we have this at Lubee. So this is a Malayan flying fox.
Oh, okay.
And they can get a wingspan up to about 5-6 feet. So
and it's a male.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is
5 or 6 feet.
We have about 67 of these guys at Lubee right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
So this is the largest species in the world. But whenever you talked about flying fox, they're a lot bigger than what we have here in Florida. Our biggest one in Florida is actually a critically endangered species found in South Florida. It's called the Florida bonneted bat. Excuse me. And whenever people think of endangered species, they think of animals in Asia, animals in Africa. This is actually one of the most critically endangered mammals right here in South Florida, and that is the biggest bat we have in Florida that's native. And they have a wingspan up to maybe about 15, 16 inches.
I want to go. We don't have anything scheduled next Saturday, do we?
No, we don't.
Oh, my gosh. You want to go?
Don't. Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah.
That would be fabulous.
Yeah. You guys got to come out. We have a lot going on. Every year we try to make it bigger and better.
Are the bats allowed to be in their natural habitat? Like, do they mate and have babies and things up there?
So this is breeding season right now, which usually starts, and we think it's linked to the sun and photo period. So usually about mid-August is whenever the bats really start to get active, and we know the male's testosterone peaks, we know their cortisol peaks, and they have this unique vocalization that only starts at this time of year. So breeding season usually lasts from about mid-August through about mid-December. Now we can't keep the sexes together because they would breed nonstop. But we know the genetics on our bats, so we know which males we can put with which females to maintain high genetic diversity. That being said, we have 2 breeding groups together right now, so guests may see some activity, but in between those 2 groups. But you're going to hear a lot of vocalizations regardless, because again, we'll keep the sexes separated, and in our male pens, they're defending their territory. So it's never.
So they're calling out. Does it sound like a dog barking or a bird?
It's like
singing?
primate calls.
Really?
We consider them.
Really?
They kind of look like lemurs. They are primate-like, and they have very similar calls to primates. They're like. They bark a lot, for lack of a better word, but in a primate way.
Do they breed upside down?
Yes. So they would.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't going to
back to front. It's. I won't get into too much detail, but it's very.
This is amazing
to see, because they don't go to the ground to do it, so they hang upside down, and they also give birth upside down. So Frick and Frack we knew she was having twins. And she was a first-time mom, so. It's a little sketchy the first time around for the mom. So University of Florida, our College of Veterinary Medicine, they're our vets, so they were ultrasounding all the bats and again, we knew that they were in breeding pens. So whenever they were born, actually, Frick, the first one, the red one, he came out. Usually, if it's a good birth, that head is looking right at mom, and it's fully furred. It's miniature version of mom, but it should be the head that comes out first. It was actually, I think his foot and his left elbow came out, and we were like, oh, no, this is not going to be good.
That could be dangerous.
So,
right?
yes, and so the vets knew, and so our keepers who do a fantastic job at observing these animals, we sent them in. They immediately grabbed the mom, and then Frick came out first, and they were able to get mom, to get the pup nursing off the mom, because they're mammals, just like us.
Sure.
But we didn't really want to take any chances, so we sent, the keepers took the mom and the pups, because one was still, she hadn't given birth yet, down to the University of Florida. By the time she got there, or shortly after, she had given birth to the second. And it was a little touchy at first. They don't normally have twins, although it's not uncommon, maybe happens 1 to 5% of the time. So what we had done is, once she had calmed down a little bit, we had given her calcium supplements twice a day, and we would feed her supplementally on top of the diet she would normally get, which these are fruit bats.
Right.
And we didn't really have any problems. There was, the pups were dehydrated maybe for about the first week or two, so we would intervene, give them some fluids, that sort of thing. But it turned out great. They're two fantastic bats, and they're really calm. Oh
my gosh. Are you going to be up there? Like, are you giving tours, or is somebody, like, doing the talk you're doing right now would be so interesting, I think. Are you doing something like this at the event next week?
Yeah, so not only myself, but the staff, we're going to be giving a variety of talks, everything from myths about bats, gardening for bats. Bats are superheroes, which is our theme this year that we can talk about in a little bit, is that bats are superheroes. And then I give a talk that is really about bat biology, Lubee, conservation, and then I have a tendency to go off on some tangents. So I talk about endangered species as well, and also a subject which is coming up in certain realms called de-extinction, where they are talking about bringing certain species that are extinct back. And I kind of put that in my talk because I think it's an interesting topic.
How do they do that?
Cloning. Think Jurassic Park, but more realistic.
Wow.
From like recently gathered DNA somehow?
So, there's a few species they're talking about. The
dodos. Where do they get the DNA from?
Just from specimens they found. So mammoths are a big one because they found, especially in Siberia, as temperatures are warming. I mean, can't deny it. Where no matter what side of the fence you're on, the temperatures are warming, and some of the permafrost is thawing out, and they're finding specimens from not only woolly mammoths but woolly rhinos. But one of the ones they're really trying for is a woolly mammoth. So they talked about woolly mammoths, passenger pigeons, which used to account for 25% of every bird we had here in North America.
We had a story about that,
Tasmanian tigers, known as thylacine. So I like to talk about this just to see, because the question is, do we take the money, the money they're using for this, should that be for bringing back animals that went extinct? Some of them, if not some, I should say the ones that they're working on, that were caused by humans. Or should we put that money towards conservation and focus on the species that we have now?
Yeah, right.
As a conservationist, we should be saving the animals and the habitats and the communities that live in these areas. We should be saving them now. But I'd pay good money to go see a woolly mammoth or a dodo or a Tasmanian tiger.
So would I.
Wow.
But I think you said something key there, that if an animal is extinct because of us overhunting, the flamingo we read the story. The flamingo was almost caused to be extinct because of overhunting for the feathers and for the meat.
Yes.
And somehow we decided not to hunt the flamingo anymore. But if that was gone, that would have been our fault, and we should be able to bring it. If we had the means, we could bring it back.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting debate. Like I said, from my background, we should be, those animals are gone, unfortunately. We should be focusing on, what we have, but wow, it'd be really cool to see something like that.
Let me show the painting again, because I have a question about it. There's the painting. How did that take place? Was there paint on the bat? Did they hold a brush? What happened?
So one of the things we try to do at Lubee is, again, bring down those myths and tell people about how important they are. And you got to do things that people can relate to. So if you go to certain zoological institutions, they have elephants painting and otters and things like that. And years ago, we had one of our keepers, her name was Jenna. She came up with this contraption that if the bats want to, they can paint. And the canvas is in, it's in kind of a vinyl coated wire contraption, I guess you could say. And there's paintbrushes attached to it, and there's paint, and the bats will go up to it, and we entice them over. I can say that. I mean, there's fruit involved. But if they really want to, they can go over and they interact with it, and it causes them to paint on these canvases. And it's something cool that we can show people, like, you know what, our bats paint. This is something that kind of anthropomorphize them as well. But we're going to be having that at the festival, and folks will be able to see the bats painting.
And now, what is that picture with the bat that looks like he's a rainbow?
Okay, so this is one of my favorite bats, Arthur.
Oh, he's eating
taken last
watermelon.
year. Yes, and he loved his watermelon. So that is Arthur. So one of the things, since we have fruit bats, folks are going to be able to see the bats interacting with not only the painting devices that we have, but excuse me, certain toys. And they love their fruit, so we're going to have pumpkins up for them because they like pumpkin, corn on the cob, peppers, that sort of thing. So people will be able to see the bats interacting with that. And like I was saying, I mean, the bats are the main draw at Bat Fest. We have a lot of other things that that folks are going to see as well.
Can I ask 2 questions in one? So the first one is, do we have bats all around us all the time, even right here in Ocala? That's part 1. So part 2 is based on that one. If we do, how come I never see like a dead one, or how come we never like run into them with our cars? It's amazing to me. I think they are everywhere because we used to see them at the Cascade. So I might know the answer to my first question.
They are all over the place. So I put up microphones to do field work. And what it does is it captures the echolocation calls, it goes to a server, and then the server cleans them up and sends them back to me. And I can go through and look at frequency and shape of the calls and determine, for the most part, maybe about 90% accuracy, what species they are. I can put it up. There's certain areas around Gainesville and Ocala I've done some work, and in 2 nights I can get over 35,000 calls.
Wow.
So it could be the same bat. Just
so they're everywhere. I mean, we have bats everywhere.
And it's amazing to look into their lives, and there's a whole world around us that we don't even know exists.
So what
It's light outside. I only thought they came out in the dark.
The bats that you'll see at Lubee, with the exception of a couple of the natives we have, so when they come out at Bat Fest, these type of bats roost in trees. So, and I'm talking about our fruit bats, not our natives. We'll have a couple of those out in display, but the big bats that folks are going to see, like Arthur here, those bats come out. They're active, in the mornings and evenings. But at Lubee, they're also active during the day. They're used to our schedule. But in the wild, they roost in trees.
Oh.
So I mean, they're used to the sunlight. So, and again, when folks come out there, they're going to be able to see the bats being active. But we got a lot of other things for folks to see. A couple of new things we're going to have this year is our theme is going to be bats are superheroes. So we try to make it bigger and better every year. So bats are superheroes is our theme, and what we're going to talk about is how important they are and some of their superhero qualities. And Tracy Pope, our programs coordinator, has come up with these beautiful displays. They're going to focus on certain species and what makes them superheroes.
Related to you?
She's my wife. Yes, Tracy Pope is my wife. But she came up with these great displays to talk about bats as superheroes. So we really want to get some good information out there for folks. And keep in mind, this is a family-friendly event. We have a whole field that's dedicated just to children. It's our whole kid zone. It's bounce houses. We're going to have face painting as well. We're going to have a ton of food vendors, Mayflower sellers, Domino's, Bubba Luigi's Road Trip, Sweet Dreams Ice Cream. But a couple other things new this year is we're going to have on the superhero theme, we're going to have a superhero costume contest, and this is for children and adults. So dressing up isn't just for Halloween. We want folks to dress up for our Bat Fest. So it's going to be between 12 and 1, 10 people. We're going to get gift certificates, 5 children, 5 adults. So we're going to have the costume contest. I'd mentioned about meeting some of our native bats is going to be new, and we're going to have an expanded beer garden this year. So not only do we have a ton of food vendors, we're going to have a lot of other
bats and beer.
There we go, bats and beer.
Absolutely, I'll say this: the breweries, not only in Ocala but in Gainesville, have been fantastic supporters.
See, Robin is a fan of brats and beer from Wisconsin.
Right.
So
exactly.
We're going to have Mayflower sellers there with their sausage. We're going to have, so you got Infinite Ale Works from Ocala is going to be there. The Brick City Brewers is going to be there. Hogtown Brewers, which by the way have been fantastic supporters of Lubee. Halpatter from Lake City, High Springs Brewery, and then the 4 big ones from Gainesville. Blackadder Brewery, who is a sponsor of Bat Fest.
Oh my gosh.
Cypress and Grove, First Mag, and Swamphead. Now I will say this: when it comes to the beer garden and admission, children 5 to 12 is $5. Adults 13 and up are $8. Children 4 and under free. If you would like, in the beer garden, by the way, is unlimited samples for $20. So for the beer garden, it would be $8 admission and then the $20 on top of that for beer garden. And you can get cheaper tickets. You could pay once you get to the festival, but you can get tickets as well through Ticket Leap, which is where you can buy tickets if you don't want to have to wait in the line.
Now you have one more picture.
Yeah, I do have a picture.
There.
This is a mom and a pup, which I thought was really cute.
Oh, that is
I
cute.
just wanted to bring in.
Oh my gosh, yeah, they don't want to be touched, huh? You can't pet them. They look like dogs.
Yeah, they really don't. I mean, if we have to handle them, we we'll put gloves on. They're welder's gloves. They can bite pretty hard, but just like any animal, they don't really like to be touched. But folks are going to get a chance to see them. They're going to be hanging out in their habitats. But I will say this: this is a rain or shine event. The bats aren't going to care. They're outdoors, so if it rains, they're still going to be active. So folks are going to get to see them. And I had a couple things for you guys, just as a thank you for having us. A couple of stickers. These are our
nice.
I Love Bat stickers, which these are going to be available merchandise.
Right.
Thank you.
And then one of the things we're actually coming up with right now is we are creating a campaign called Love Our Bats. So through explore.org, if you'd want to just show this at the camera, it'd be great. Have you ever heard of like the bald eagle cams and the bear cams?
Yes.
So we're actually
I love them.
We're going to be getting some of those cameras, and they're going to be installed in our bat exhibits. And on top of not only having cameras that are going to be on 24/7, that people will always be able to watch our bats all over the world. We're creating a new website and our campaign Love Our Bats, which we really want folks to not only focus on the bats that are at Lubee and love the animals we have there, but love and appreciate the bats in your own backyard, because they are so important. That's one of the things we're going to start really pressing with this campaign, is how important they are.
Nice.
Not only for seed dispersal and pollination for a lot of crops we depend on, such as bananas, durians, cashews, and agave, where we get tequila, but insect services as well. They eat a ton of insects. Studies have shown they save U.S. farmers between $3 and $53 billion a year in crop losses and reduced for pesticides. So we want to tell folks to love bats at Lubee in their own backyard, because they are some of the most important mammals to us. And Brian, you can find out all this information at our festival next Saturday, October 20th from 10 to 5.
Brian, is there a way that we can help you? Like, do you have like a membership club or something where we like for an annual fee we can, I don't know, be a part of the help? You know, it's just somebody helping. Yeah, so we have our website, which is www.lubee, which is LUBEE.org, and we have our website that we've had for years now. Tracy and I are creating another website, which should be up and running within the next couple of weeks, but there are membership opportunities there. There are donation opportunities. Adopt a Bat, which some of these bats that we saw, we have, I believe, Tracy has, Frick and Frack, that folks can adopt Frick and Frack. Oh, nice. Because we are a small nonprofit with a limited budget. Yeah, I was thinking if we could help you somehow, that would be awesome. That would be great, and it would be on our website, lubee.org, and we are all over social media on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. The Lubee is spelled, by the way, Lubee, and the website that Brian just told you about is lubee.org. And next week, what time should we arrive? It's the festival itself next Saturday, October 20th, from 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And give us an address and maybe a landmark. How do we get there? So we are at 1309 Northwest 196th Avenue. That's Gainesville 32609. And if you are going up 441, where 121 and 441 meet, there's a highway patrol station there. Okay. You make that right and keep going on 121. We're 10 minutes up the road, right off of 231. We're about 5 miles south of Brooker. We do have a Gainesville address, but from the University of Florida, we're about 20-25 minutes. And folks can get to Lubee by taking exit 390, which is, I believe, 39th Street right in Gainesville, or you can get there through Alachua as well, which is 399. Just don't GPS the address. You can, and all this information's on our website. Just Google the address, because if GPS it takes us down, take you down to a neighbor's place that has chickens running around, and he gets a little annoyed. So Google our address, and that information is on our Facebook page and also our website as well. You said 196th Avenue, and your website said 192nd. Yeah, 192nd Avenue. Yes. Oh, okay. Okay. 1309 192nd Avenue 326. 609. Okay, very good. Brian, you are so passionate about this. Real quickly, the question I asked that you didn't answer, how come we don't see them? Why don't we hit them with our cars? Not that I want to. Sure. But do they fly too high? Do they get rid of do they bury their own dead? What happens? That would be interesting. They echolocate, though. So they see a car coming, they swerve around it. That's why. Because they avoid the car better than a deer would, for example. Yes, actually, you can ask my wife that, because she may have bumped one the other day. A little bit of a dent. A deer or a bat? She was between... She's probably listening. She was in between Alachua and La Crosse, and a deer kind of came out. She just hit its back end a little bit. But yeah, the deer was fine, and Tracy was fine too. But bats, if you were to put up a strand of hair, they're able to echolocate around that. So if they see a large object like a car coming, they're able to get around it just like that. Wow. What a great interview you just gave us. Thank you so much for doing this, Brian. Thank you guys very much for the opportunity. All right. We'll see you next week. Okay. Sounds good. Thanks. We'll be right back. This is The Source, WOCA. Joe Martone coming back in just a bit from Dollywood up in Pigeon Forge. We'll be right back with Joe.
CPIR is a networking group formed to serve the realtor and small business community. It primarily serves the real estate and construction industry, but